Episode D, Hill Cumorah, Miners Cave, and the Two Hill Cumorah Hypothesis. A long-standing belief in the Church, passed down through generations, holds that the Book of Mormon was either returned to the angel Moroni, who took it back to heaven, or that Moroni placed it back within the Hill Cumorah. Many members might not be aware of the claim of a cave within the Hill Cumorah. This cave is said to contain the ancient records of the Book of Mormon peoples, including the plates mentioned in the Book of Mormon itself. Additionally, it is rumored to house the Urim and Thummim and the Sword of Laban. Cameron J. Packer stated in Cumorahs Cave, Journal of Book of Mormon Studies, Vol. 13, Numa 1, Article 6, the significance of the Hill Cumorah in the restoration of the Gospel goes beyond its identification as the ancient repository of the metal plates known as the Book of Mormon. In the second half of the 19th century, a teaching about a cave in the hill began surfacing in the writings of several leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In their view, the hill was not only the place where Joseph Smith received the plates, but also their final repository, along with other sacred treasures, after the translation was finished. Why is this not taught in the Gospel Principles class for new converts before they move on to adult Sunday school, where more advanced teachings are covered? I grew up in the church, attended Sunday school classes, taught gospel principles, and delivered missionary lessons to new converts. Not once did we mention the Cumorah Cave. This was entirely unknown to me until I delved deeper into LDS history as my testimony wavered and I considered leaving the church. In this episode, we will address two crucial topics. First, where is the actual Hill Cumorah and could there be two locations for it? Second, we'll explore Miner Hill and its connection to the Two Hill Cumorah Hypothesis. Part 1. Cumorahs Cave. The Hill Cumorah, as it is now known, is situated in Palmyra, New York, just a few miles from the former home of Joseph Smith, Jr., the founder of the LDS Church. According to Joseph Smith, this hill was the designated location where he was instructed to retrieve the gold plates, as revealed to him by the angel Moroni. Brigham Young stated, Oliver Cowdery went with the prophet Joseph when he deposited these plates. Joseph did not translate all of the plates. There was a portion of them sealed, which you can learn from the Book of Doctrine and Covenants. When Joseph got the plates, the angel instructed him to carry them back to the Hill Cumorah, which he did. Oliver says that when Joseph and Oliver went there, the hill opened, and they walked into a cave, in which there was a large and spacious room. He says he did not think, at the time, whether they had the light of the sun or artificial light, but that it was just as light as day. BYU scholar and historian John Tvetnes suggests that the vision of the hill might have occurred at some far distant hill, another Hill Cumorah. He argues that Joseph, Oliver, and others who claim to have seen this cave might have experienced a vision rather than a physical event. However, I find this position unconvincing. Young describes how they walked into the cave after it had opened. If it were merely a vision, there would be no need to walk. They could have been transported in the vision, as Tvetnes suggests. Let's hear more from Young. He says he did not think, at the time, whether they had the light of the sun or artificial light, but that it was just as light as day. They laid the plates on a table. It was a large table that stood in the room. Under this table, there was a pile of plates as much as 2 feet high, and there were altogether in this room more plates than probably many wagon loads. They were piled up in the corners and along the walls. The first time they went there, the Sword of Laban hung upon the wall, but when they went again, it had been taken down and laid upon the table across the gold plates. It was unsheathed, and on it was written these words, "This sword will never be sheathed again, until the kingdoms of this world become the kingdom of our God and his Christ." Let's see what Fair LDS says. There are at least 10 second-hand accounts describing the cave in Cumorah. However, Joseph Smith himself did not record the incident. The Hill Cumorah in New York is a drumlin, a pile of gravel scraped together by an ancient glacier. The geological unlikelihood of such a cave suggests that the witness's experience was likely a vision or divine transportation to another location, as with Nephi's experience in 1 Nephi 11:1. Tvetnes supports this view. Even church apologists avoid claiming this as a physical event. The Hill Cumorah is essentially a gravel heap, which would crumble if split open. In the 1800s, a tunnel was dug into the Hill Cumorah, producing nothing. A future owner eventually covered and sealed it before the Utah LDS Church acquired the property and placed the Angel Moroni statue on top. Fair LDS asserts that John Fetnana's research supports their views, citing him as follows. The story of the cave full of plates inside the Hill Cumorah in New York is often given as evidence that it is indeed the hill where Mormon hid the plates. Jorgensen quotes one version of the story from Brigham Young and alludes to 6 others collected by Paul T. Smith. Unfortunately, none of the accounts is first-hand. The New York Hill Cumorah is a drumlin laid down by a moving glacier comprised of gravel and earth. Geologically, it is impossible for the hill to have a cave, and all those who have gone in search of the cave have come back empty-handed. If the story attributed to Oliver Cowdery by others is true, then the visits to the cave likely represent visions of some far distant hill, not physical events. Given that the angel Moroni had retrieved the plates from Joseph several times previously, it is not unreasonable to assume that he was capable of transporting them to a different location than the hill in New York. As Tvetnes asks, if they could truly be moved about, why not from Mexico, for example? There was no transporting of the plates. The plates were supposedly in the Palmyra Hill Cumorah, the very hill now owned by the church and the site of the Palmyra pageant, which reenacts the Book of Mormon story and Joseph's retrieval of the plates. Tvetnes subtly suggests that the plates were moved from Mesoamerica to Palmyra and back via divine transportation, but we have no such accounts from Joseph Smith's own time. The accounts of the Cumorah Cave all emerged decades later, with most statements coming between the 1860s and 1880s. The earliest account is from 1856, 12 years after Joseph's death. Brigham Young was the most vocal about the cave, and other sources frequently cite his statements. I found it particularly intriguing during my research that this narrative seems to parallel the Captain Kidd story, suggesting a possible connection. Wilford Woodruff, an apostle and the 4th prophet and president, stated, President Young said in relation to Joseph Smith returning the plates of the Book of Mormon that he did not return them to the box from whence he had received them, but he went into a cave in the Hill Cumorah with Oliver Cowdery and deposited those plates upon a table or shelf. Notice the spelling of Cumorah? It is spelled Comoro, just like the Comoros Islands in the Indian Ocean. One of the city names of the Comoros Islands is Moroni, which happens to be the name of the angel Smith interacted with. This raises questions about whether Smith and early leaders like Woodruff were influenced by tales of Captain Kidd, whom Woodruff might have heard about during his mission in Maine and England. Could this spelling have come from Kidd's stories, or was it widely known among early church leaders? This topic will be explored in more detail in a future video. Part 2, the Two Hill Cumorah Hypothesis. After failing to uncover any archaeological evidence supporting the Book of Mormon claims about the Hill Cumorah in Palmyra, New York, the Church adopted the Two Hill Cumorah Hypothesis. This theory proposes that the original Hill Cumorah described in the Book of Mormon was actually located in Mexico or Central America, specifically within the Mesoamerican region. This shift was necessary because no evidence had been found to corroborate the Book of Mormon's descriptions, such as swords, chariots, pre-Columbian steel arrowheads, or steel armor. Furthermore, there were no mass burials discovered that would support the grand battles described in the book, such as the final battle between the Nephites and Lamanites at the Hill Cumorah, or Ramah, as it was known to the Jaredites. BYU scholar John E. Clark stated in his review, I am unaware of any archaeological investigation of the hill itself, but sufficient information is available for the surrounding regions to make a critical assessment. Mormon's Hill and Moroni's Hill are not one and the same. The Two Hill Cumorah hypothesis might seem plausible, but it falls apart when we consider placing the second hill in Mesoamerica. The idea that one man could transport hundreds of pounds of golden plates from Mexico to upstate New York strains credulity. Instead, just a few miles from the Hill Cumorah, where Joseph Smith claimed to have found the golden plates, lies Miners Hill, a site where Smith and his family were known to have dug. This nearby location is likely the origin of the Cumorah Cave story and presents a far more realistic scenario. Part 3, Miners Hill. Historically, Miners Hill in Durham, New York, was known for its mining and treasure hunting activities, which drew various individuals and families to the area. Joseph Smith's family was actively involved in treasure digging there, contributing to speculation about Miners Hill's connection to the Cumorah Cave story. A key question that persists is, what happened to the gold plates? While it is often assumed that the plates were taken to heaven, David Whitmer provides another perspective on the matter. In an 1878 interview with the Deseret News, Whitmer was asked, "Where are the plates now?" "In a cave, where the angel has hidden them up till the time arrives when the plates, which are sealed, shall be translated. God will yet raise up a mighty one, who shall do his work till it is finished, and Jesus comes again." Where is that cave? In the state of New York? In the Hill of Cumorah? No, but not far away from that place. In an article by K.C. Kern, intriguing details that emerged from later accounts. One notable figure in these discussions is John Gilbert, the typesetter of the Book of Mormon. Although Gilbert was not a believer and had no direct involvement in the church, he was closely acquainted with early Mormons and had detailed access to the original manuscript. He mentioned the cave on 3 different occasions, suggesting it served as the Mormons' base during the Book of Mormon's preparation. Gilbert stated, "I have seen Joseph Smith a few times, but not acquainted with him. Saw Hiram quite often. I am the party that set the type from the original manuscript for the Book of Mormon. They translated it in a cave." Joe Smith was not at the office at all. Joe Smith was in his cave or room where the translating had been done, getting new revelations, I suppose, from the angel. Hid them for a day, and then took them to his house. Later, the alleged plates were carried to a cave for translation. In that cave, it is supposed they really went over the manuscript which had been stolen by Rigdon from Spalding's house. Major Gilbert told me that the first hill 2 miles south of Palmyra on the east side of Canandaigua Pond was Cave Hill. Halfway up the hill can still be seen a depression which marks the entrance to the cave in which Joseph Smith translated the gold plates from which the Book of Mormons was printed. Most of the Book of Mormon translation occurred in Pennsylvania, which casts doubt on Gilbert's statements. However, the late phase translation did occur in New York, specifically Fayette rather than Manchester. Should further evidence support Gilbert's claim that any translation or related activities took place in this cave, its historical significance would be significantly enhanced. One story suggests that Joseph Smith used a curtain or similar means to conceal his activities within Miners Cave. This account, derived from a blend of second-hand reports and speculative sources, proposes that Smith employed a curtain to shield the translation process from inquisitive onlookers. Such an action would be consistent with the secretive nature of Smith's work on the Book of Mormon. Historically, this idea aligns with earlier practices in Mormon tradition. When Joseph Smith began translating the supposed golden plates, he used a sheet draped over a line to obscure his work. This pattern of using barriers to protect sacred activities lends credibility to the possibility that similar measures were employed in Miners Cave. The story of a curtain in Miners Cave is not just a speculative detail, but fits the established pattern of secrecy surrounding Smith's work. It reflects a broader practice of safeguarding sacred processes and hidden knowledge. This connection to earlier practices adds weight to the speculative narratives about Miners Cave, reinforcing its significance in the early Mormon history. Conclusion: the exploration of Cumorah and Miners Hill reveals intriguing layers of speculation and historical interpretation. The Two Hill Cumorah Hypothesis attempts to reconcile the lack of archaeological evidence in Palmyra with the Book of Mormon's accounts by suggesting an original location in Mesoamerica. However, the notion that one individual could transport the golden plates from Mexico to New York strains credulity. I propose that the true Hill Cumorah, the one that holds the supposed records and artifacts, is not located in Palmyra or Mexico, but rather at Miners Hill. Unlike the Hill Cumorah in Palmyra, or the speculative locations in Mexico, we have concrete evidence of a cave being dug by Joseph Smith at Miners Hill. This tangible connection provides a stronger basis for identifying Miners Hill as the genuine site associated with the Book of Mormon records and artifacts. Miners Hill, with its historical context of treasure hunting and Smith family activities, offers a more plausible link to the Cumorah Cave story. The cave's significance, as reported by early figures like Brigham Young and John Gilbert, underscores a narrative that extends beyond physical evidence to embrace the realm of speculative history. As we sift through these theories, it becomes evident that the search for historical truth is often entwined with personal beliefs and interpretations. Thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for today.